She was invisible at the charity gala, a caterer in borrowed clothes just trying to make rent. He was the heir everyone watched, the man with everything except what he truly wanted. When Evan Whitmore walked past a room full of donors to speak her name out loud, Nia Carter's quiet life shattered into 1,000 pieces. What followed wasn't a fairy tale, it was sabotage, envelopes full of cash with forged notes, and a mother-in-law who saw her as a problem to solve. They said a man like him would never choose a single mother from the South Side. They said she was after his money. They said it wouldn't last. But sometimes the most powerful act of rebellion is simply refusing to let go. If you're watching this, subscribe and tell me which city you're watching from. Because this story proves that love isn't about where you come from. It's about who stays when the world tries to tear you apart. The ballroom glittered under crystal chandeliers. Nia Carter kept her eyes on the serving tray in her hands, weaving between women in silk gowns and men in pressed tuxedos. She'd learned long ago how to be invisible at events like these. Head down, smile polite, finish the shift, and go home to Milo. She set champagne flutes on a table near the entrance and stepped back against the wall. The Spring Valley Community Foundation Gala was in full swing. Donors laughed and clinked glasses. A string quartet played something soft and elegant in the corner. Nia tugged at the hem of her black catering uniform. It was borrowed from another girl on the crew, a size too tight across the shoulders. But the pay was good, better than her day job at Little Stars Preschool, and Milo needed new shoes. The ones he had were starting to pinch his toes. She checked her phone. 7:43 p.m. Mrs. Jenkins had texted 15 minutes ago. Milo's asleep. All good here, honey. Nia exhaled. She hated leaving him at night, even with her neighbor watching him, but rent was due in 10 days, and she was still $30 short. Excuse me. A woman in emerald green brushed past without looking at her. Nia stepped aside, invisible again. She moved toward the kitchen, weaving past clusters of conversation. Someone laughed too loud near the bar. Someone else complained about traffic on the highway. Nia kept her face neutral. She'd worked enough of these events to know the rhythm. Blend in, stay quiet. Don't make eye contact unless spoken to. The kitchen doors swung open. Maria, the lead caterer, waved her over. Nia, we need fresh trays out front. VIP just arrived. Big deal, apparently. Maria rolled her eyes. Some Whitmore kid. Family owns half the county. Nia nodded and picked up a tray of canapes. She didn't know much about the Whitmores except that their name was on buildings all over town. The hospital wing, the library, even the park near Milo's school. She pushed back through the doors and into the ballroom. That's when she saw him. He stood near the entrance, tall and broad-shouldered, his dark suit tailored perfectly to his frame. Brown hair, neatly combed but slightly tousled, like he'd been running late. His face was calm, almost serious, but his eyes scanned the room like he was looking for someone. Nia's stomach tightened. She knew that face. She'd seen it once before, 3 months ago, outside a gas station on Route 9. An older man, his driver, she'd realized later, had been struggling with a flat tire in the rain. Nia had been on her way home from picking up Milo, but she'd pulled over anyway. She didn't know much about cars, but she knew how to hold a flashlight steady while someone else worked. The driver had been grateful. The younger man, this man, had stepped out of the car to thank her. He'd offered her money. She'd refused. He'd looked at her for a long moment, like he was trying to memorize her face, and then he'd smiled. A real smile. Not the polite kind people gave to service workers. She hadn't thought about him since. Not really. But now he was here. And he was looking right at her. Nia's breath caught. She turned quickly, moving toward the far side of the room. Maybe he wouldn't remember. Maybe she'd imagined the recognition in his eyes. She set the tray down on a table and started arranging the canapes in neat rows. Her hands moved automatically, but her mind was racing. Nia. The voice was calm, steady, right behind her. She turned. He stood a few feet away, hands in his pockets, expression unreadable. "It is you," he said. Her mouth went dry. Yes, sir. Evan." He stepped closer, not crowding her, but close enough that she could see the faint lines at the corners of his eyes. "My name's Evan. You helped my driver a few months ago, George. He's still talking about it." Nia nodded, unsure what to say. Around them, the room continued its hum of conversation and laughter, but she felt like a spotlight had just turned on her. "I never got to thank you properly," Evan said. "You left before I could." "It was nothing," Nia said quickly. "Really, anyone would have done the same." "But you did." His gaze didn't waver. "I've thought about that night a lot." Nia's pulse quickened. She glanced around. A few people were watching now, their conversations pausing mid-sentence. She saw a woman in a red dress nudge her companion and whisper something. "I should get back to work," Nia said, her voice tight. "Wait." Evan held up a hand, not touching her, but asking her to pause. "Would you step outside with me? Just for a minute. I'd like to talk." Her heart hammered. "I don't think that's a good idea." "Please." There was something in his voice, something genuine and unguarded, that made her hesitate. She looked at him, really looked at him, and saw no arrogance, no pity, just quiet sincerity. "1 minute," she said. He nodded and gestured toward the side exit. Nia walked ahead of him, acutely aware of the eyes following her. She felt the weight of their stares, the unspoken questions. Who is she? Why is he talking to her? The cool night air hit her face as they stepped onto the terrace. The city lights stretched out below them, glittering against the dark sky. Nia wrapped her arms around herself, suddenly aware of how thin her uniform was. Evan stood beside her, hands still in his pockets. For a moment, neither of them spoke. "I wasn't sure I'd see you again," he said finally. "Why would you?" Nia's voice came out sharper than she intended. "I'm nobody." "That's not true." "It is." She turned to face him. "You don't know me. You don't know anything about me. You saw me do one decent thing on a rainy night, and now you think, what? That I'm special?" "I think you're kind," Evan said simply, "and real. That's rare in my world." Nia laughed, a short, bitter sound. "Your world? Yeah, I don't belong in your world. Maybe I don't want to belong in it either." That caught her off guard. She studied his face, searching for sarcasm or condescension. She found neither. "Why did you ask me out here?" she said quietly. "Because I wanted to see you again," Evan said, "and I didn't want to do it in front of 100 people. Too late for that." Nia glanced back at the glass doors. Through the windows she could see the ballroom. People were definitely watching now. Evan followed her gaze and frowned. "I didn't think about that. I'm sorry." "It's fine." She turned back to the railing, gripping it with both hands. "I'm used to people staring. You shouldn't have to be." His voice was so certain, so matter-of-fact, that Nia felt something crack inside her chest. She didn't know if it was anger or grief or something else entirely. "I have to go back in," she said. "Can I see you again?" Evan asked. "Outside of this, somewhere normal." "Normal." Nia shook her head. "You wouldn't know normal if it hit you in the face." "Then teach me." She looked at him, startled. "Coffee," Evan said. 1 hour, during the day, somewhere public. You pick the place." "Why?" "Because I can't stop thinking about you." The honesty in his voice nearly undid her. Nia's defenses, carefully built over years of disappointment and betrayal, wavered. "I have a son," she said abruptly. Evan didn't flinch. "Okay." "He's 6. His father's not in the picture. It's just me and him." "Okay." "And I work 2 jobs. I don't have time for games or drama or whatever this is." "I'm not offering games or drama," Evan said. "I'm offering coffee." Nia searched his face. She wanted to say no. She wanted to walk away and forget this conversation ever happened. But something in his eyes, something steady and unjudging, made her hesitate. 1 hour, she said finally. "Tomorrow morning, 10 o'clock. There's a cafe near my son's school. Rosie's." Evan nodded. "I'll be there. If you're late, I'm leaving." "I won't be late." Nia turned and walked back inside before she could change her mind. The ballroom felt even brighter now, the noise louder. She moved quickly toward the kitchen, avoiding eye contact with anyone. Maria was waiting by the door, arms crossed. What was that about? "Nothing." Nia grabbed her coat from the hook on the wall. "I need to leave early. Family emergency." Maria's eyes narrowed, but she didn't argue. "Fine, but you're covering next week's shift." "Deal." Nia pushed through the back exit and into the parking lot. Her hands were shaking as she unlocked her car, a beat-up Honda with a dent in the passenger door and a check engine light that had been on for 3 months. She climbed in and sat there for a moment, gripping the steering wheel. What had she just agreed to? She pulled out her phone and stared at the screen. No new messages, just the wallpaper photo of Milo grinning at the camera, his front tooth missing. She thought about Evan's face, the way he'd looked at her. Not like she was invisible, not like she was a problem to be solved, just seen. Nia started the engine and pulled out of the parking lot. She drove through the quiet streets, past the darkened storefronts and glowing streetlights. Her mind was a mess of conflicting thoughts, hope and fear, curiosity and caution. By the time she pulled up outside her apartment building, she had almost convinced herself to text him and cancel, but she didn't. The next morning, Nia woke to sunlight streaming through the thin curtains in her bedroom. She checked the time. 7:15 a.m. Milo was already awake, sitting cross-legged on the living room floor in his dinosaur pajamas, watching cartoons on the old TV. His curls were a mess, sticking up at odd angles. "Morning, baby," Nia said, ruffling his hair as she walked past. "Morning, Mama." He didn't look away from the screen. She made breakfast, scrambled eggs and toast, and set a plate in front of him. Milo ate slowly, his eyes still glued to the TV. "We're going to the cafe this morning," Nia said casually, "before I drop you at school." "The one with the muffins?" "Yeah? Can I get a muffin?" "Sure, baby." Milo smiled, satisfied, and went back to his eggs. Nia showered and dressed in jeans and a plain blue sweater. Nothing fancy. She wasn't trying to impress anyone. She pulled her hair back into a ponytail and stared at herself in the bathroom mirror. "This is a mistake," she thought. "You should cancel." But she didn't. At 9:45, she and Milo walked into Rosie's cafe. The place was small and cozy, with mismatched chairs and chipped paint on the walls. The smell of fresh coffee and baked goods filled the air. Evan was already there. He sat at a table near the window, 2 cups of coffee in front of him. He stood when he saw her, his expression careful but warm. "Hi," he said. "Hi." Nia's voice was tight. Milo peeked out from behind her leg, his eyes wide. Evan crouched down so he was at eye level with the boy. "You must be Milo." Milo nodded, clutching the strap of his backpack. "I'm Evan. It's nice to meet you." "Hi," Milo said quietly. Evan smiled, a real, genuine smile, and stood back up. He gestured to the table. "I got you coffee. Wasn't sure how you take it, so I grabbed sugar and cream just in case." Nia sat down slowly, her guard still up. Milo climbed into the chair beside her and swung his legs under the table. "Can I get a muffin?" Milo asked. "Of course." Evan stood and walked to the counter. He returned a moment later with a chocolate chip muffin the size of Milo's head. Milo's eyes went wide. "Whoa," Evan grinned. "Figured you'd like that one." Nia watched the exchange, her heart doing something complicated in her chest. Milo was shy around strangers, always had been, but he was smiling now, peeling back the muffin wrapper with careful fingers. "Thank you," Nia said quietly. "Of course." Evan sat down across from her. "Thanks for coming." They sat in silence for a moment. Nia stirred cream into her coffee, stalling. "I wasn't sure you'd show," Evan said. "I wasn't sure either. What changed your mind?" Nia glanced at Milo, who was happily devouring his muffin. "I don't know. Curiosity, maybe, or stupidity." Evan's lips twitched. "I'll take it." She looked at him then, really looked at him. He was dressed casually today, jeans and a sweater, but even that looked expensive. His watch probably cost more than her rent. "Why me?" she asked bluntly. "You could have anyone. Why are you sitting here with me?" Evan leaned back in his chair, his expression thoughtful. "Because when I met you, you didn't want anything from me. You didn't care who I was. You just helped because it was the right thing to do." "That's not special," Nia said. "It's just being a decent person." "Maybe, but it felt special to me." Nia looked away, uncomfortable with the intensity in his gaze. "I'm not looking for charity," she said, "or a project, or whatever fantasy you've got in your head about who I am." "I don't think you're a project," Evan said. "I think you're strong and real and braver than most people I know." "You don't know me." "Then let me." Nia's throat tightened. She wanted to argue, to push him away, to protect herself and Milo from the inevitable disappointment, but something in his voice, something steady and patient, made her pause. "1 hour," she said finally. "That's all I'm giving you today." 1 hour, Evan agreed, and for the next 60 minutes they talked. About small things at first, the weather, the cafe's terrible Wi-Fi, Milo's obsession with dinosaurs, then deeper things. Nia told him about her job at the preschool, about the kids she worked with, and how much she loved them. Evan told her about his family, about the weight of expectations and the loneliness of always being watched. Milo finished his muffin and pulled a coloring book from his backpack. He worked quietly, humming to himself, while Nia and Evan talked. When the hour was up, Nia stood. "I need to get him to school." Evan nodded and stood too. "Can I walk you out?" She hesitated, then nodded. Outside, the morning sun was warm on her face. Milo ran ahead to the car, already climbing into his booster seat. "Thank you," Evan said, "for giving me a chance." "Don't make me regret it," Nia said. He smiled. "I'll try not to." She watched him walk away, his hands in his pockets, his stride easy and unhurried. And despite every instinct screaming at her to run, Nia felt something dangerous bloom in her chest. Hope. The photo showed up 3 days later. Nia was wiping down tables in the preschool classroom when her phone buzzed. She pulled it from her pocket, expecting a text from Mrs. Jenkins or a reminder about Milo's dentist appointment. Instead, she saw a message from Keisha, another aide at the preschool. No words, just a link. Nia clicked it. The web page loaded slowly. When it finally appeared, her stomach dropped. There, in full color on some local gossip blog, was a photo of Evan Whitmore crouched down in front of Milo outside Rosie's cafe. Evan was holding Milo's dinosaur backpack. Milo was smiling up at him, his little hand on Evan's shoulder. The headline read, "Whitmore heirs new charity case." Below the photo, the article speculated about Evan's mysterious companion, a single mother from the South Side who worked as a preschool aide. The tone was sweet on the surface, talking about Evan's generous heart and commitment to helping those in need. But underneath, the implication was clear. She was a charity case, a poor woman with a kid who'd caught the attention of a rich man looking to feel good about himself. Nia's hands shook as she scrolled through the comments. Bet she saw him coming from a mile away. Gold digger alert. He's probably just trying to look good for the foundation. That kid's not even his. Why's he playing daddy? She set the phone down before she could read more. Her vision blurred. The classroom walls seemed to close in around her. "Nia," Keisha's voice came from the doorway. "You okay?" Nia wiped her eyes quickly. "Yeah, fine." "Girl, don't lie to me." Keisha crossed the room and sat on one of the tiny chairs meant for 4-year-olds. "I saw the article. That's messed up." "It's nothing," Nia said, her voice tight. "People talk. Let them talk." "But it's not true, right? You're not—" "Not what?" Nia turned to face her. "Not dating him? Not stupid enough to think someone like him would actually care about someone like me?" Keisha's face softened. "That's not what I meant." Nia grabbed her phone and shoved it back in her pocket. "I need to finish cleaning." "Nia, please," her voice cracked. "Just leave it alone." Keisha stood slowly and walked to the door. She paused, looking back. "For what it's worth, I think he'd be lucky to have you." Nia didn't respond. She just kept wiping down tables, her movements mechanical, her mind spinning. That evening, Nia's phone rang while she was making dinner. The caller ID showed her landlord's name. Her stomach sank. "Hello?" "Ms. Carter." Mr. Brennan's voice was cold and clipped. "We need to discuss your lease." Nia stirred the pasta on the stove with one hand, phone pressed to her ear with the other. "Is there a problem?" "I've received some complaints from other tenants about visitors and noise." "Noise?" Nia frowned. "Mr. Brennan, I'm quiet. You know that. And I don't have visitors." "I've seen the photos, Ms. Carter." Her hand froze on the spoon. "Photos?" she said carefully. "Of you and that Whitmore boy. People are talking. This is a family building. I can't have—" "Can't have what?" Anger flared in her chest. "Can't have a tenant who's black and single getting attention from someone rich? Is that what you're saying?" "I'm saying I don't want drama. I don't want reporters or cameras or whatever else comes with people like him. This building is quiet. I'd like to keep it that way." Nia closed her eyes. "I pay my rent on time, every month. I don't cause trouble. You can't kick me out because of who I had coffee with." "I'm not kicking you out," Mr. Brennan said. "I'm just—" suggesting you might be more comfortable somewhere else. Your lease is up in 3 months. I'm not sure I'll be renewing it. The line went dead. Nia stood there, phone in hand, staring at the boiling pot of pasta. Her chest felt tight, her throat burned. 3 months. She had 3 months to find a new place, in a city where rent was already too high and landlords asked too many questions and single mothers with bad credit were always last on the list. "Mama?" Milo appeared in the doorway, his dinosaur tucked under one arm. "Is dinner ready?" Nia blinked hard and forced a smile. "Almost, baby. Go wash your hands." He ran off toward the bathroom. Nia turned off the stove and leaned against the counter, pressing her palms flat against the cool surface. She wanted to scream. She wanted to cry. She wanted to throw her phone across the room and watch it shatter. Instead, she took a breath and drained the pasta. Evan called that night after Milo was asleep. Nia let it ring twice before answering. "Hi," she said quietly. "Did you see it?" Evan's voice was tight, controlled. "The article?" "Yeah." "Nia, I'm so sorry. You didn't think people would notice?" Nia sat on the edge of her bed, staring at the peeling paint on the wall. "You didn't think someone would take a picture and twist it into something ugly?" "No, I didn't." He sounded angry now, not at her, at himself. "I should have been more careful." "It's not your fault," Nia said, even though part of her wanted to blame him. "This is just how it is. People see what they want to see. What do you want to do?" "I don't know." She rubbed her face with her free hand. "My landlord called tonight. Said he might not renew my lease because of you, because people are talking." Silence on the other end. "Evan?" "Let me help." He said. No." Her voice was sharp. "You can't fix this with money. That's exactly what people expect. That's exactly what they're saying. That I'm using you, that you're trying to buy me." "I don't care what they say?" "Well, I do." Nia stood, pacing the small bedroom. "I care because I have a son. I care because this is my life, my reputation, my home. You get to walk away from this whenever you want. I don't." Another silence, longer this time. "You're right," Evan said finally. "I'm sorry." Nia sat back down, her anger deflating. "I'm not trying to be mean. I can't afford to be reckless, not with Milo." "I understand." "Do you?" She wasn't sure he could. "Do you understand what it's like to have people look at you and assume the worst? To have every choice you make judged and twisted and used against you?" "No," Evan said honestly. "I don't. But I want to. I want to understand." Nia closed her eyes. "I think we need to stop seeing each other." "Nia, I'm serious. This is too much, too fast, too complicated." "It doesn't have to be." "Yes, it does." Her voice broke. "Because you're you and I'm me, and the world doesn't care that we had one nice conversation over coffee. The world sees a rich white guy and a broke black woman, and it writes its own story." "Then let's write a different one." "How?" Nia's voice was barely a whisper now. "How do we do that when everyone's already decided what this is?" Evan was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was steady, certain. "By not hiding, by not apologizing, by choosing each other openly every day until they get tired of watching." "That's naive." "Maybe, but I'd rather be naive with you than safe without you." Nia's throat tightened. She wanted to believe him. She wanted to let herself hope. But hope was dangerous. Hope got you hurt. "I need time," she said, "to think." "Okay," Evan said. "Take all the time you need. I'm not going anywhere." They said goodbye. Nia sat in the dark bedroom, phone still in her hand, and let herself cry. The next morning, Nia found groceries on her doorstep. 2 bags, neatly packed. Milk, eggs, bread, fresh fruit. The kind of fruit that didn't come from the discount bin. Apples without bruises, strawberries that weren't on the verge of going bad. There was no note. Nia carried the bags inside and set them on the kitchen counter. She stared at them for a long moment, emotions warring in her chest. Anger, because he'd done exactly what she'd asked him not to do. Relief, because her paycheck wasn't due for another week and she'd been stretching every dollar. Gratitude, because no one else had ever done something like this for her. Milo wandered into the kitchen, rubbing sleep from his eyes. "Where'd the strawberries come from?" "A friend," Nia said quietly. Can I have some? After breakfast, she made oatmeal and sliced strawberries on top. Milo ate happily, his legs swinging under the table. Nia drank her coffee and tried not to think about Evan, tried not to think about the way he'd crouched down to meet Milo's eyes, the way he'd listened when she talked, really listened, like her words mattered. Her phone buzzed. A text from Mrs. Jenkins. Saw the article, honey? People are trash. You doing okay? Nia typed back. I'm fine. Thanks for checking. Mrs. Jenkins responded immediately. Come by later if you need to talk. I made banana bread. Nia smiled despite herself. Mrs. Jenkins had lived in the apartment next door for 5 years. She was the closest thing Nia had to family in the city. A widow with grown children who lived out of state, Mrs. Jenkins had taken one look at Nia struggling with a crying baby and a mountain of moving boxes and declared herself an honorary grandmother. That evening, after Milo was in bed, Nia knocked on Mrs. Jenkins's door. The older woman answered wearing a floral housecoat and fuzzy slippers, her silver hair pinned back. There's my girl. Come in, come in. The apartment smelled like sugar and cinnamon. Mrs. Jenkins led her to the small kitchen table and set a plate of banana bread between them. Talk to me, Mrs. Jenkins said, settling into her chair with a soft grunt. Nia told her everything. The gala, the coffee, the photo, the phone call from Mr. Brennan. Mrs. Jenkins listened without interrupting, her dark eyes sharp and knowing. When Nia finished, Mrs. Jenkins cut a thick slice of banana bread and pushed it across the table. Eat first, then we'll figure this out. Nia took a bite. It was warm and sweet and everything she needed in that moment. That man, Mrs. Jenkins said, the one who brought you groceries, he sounds decent. He is, Nia admitted. I think. You think? I don't know him, not really, and people are always going to talk, Mrs. Jenkins said firmly. Been that way since the beginning of time. Question is, are you going to let them decide your life for you? It's not that simple, isn't it? Mrs. Jenkins leaned forward. Baby, I've lived a long time, long enough to see a lot of folks pass up good things because they were scared of what other people might say. And you know what? Those people, the ones talking, they're still talking. They'll find something else to gossip about next week. But you could miss out on something real. What if it's not real? Nia's voice was small. What if he gets bored? What if this is just some fantasy for him? Then you'll know, and you'll move on. But you won't know unless you try. Nia looked down at the banana bread, her vision blurring. I'm scared. I know, honey. Mrs. Jenkins reached across the table and took her hand. But being scared means you care. And caring is worth the risk. 2 days later, Evan showed up at Little Star's preschool. Nia was outside with the kids during recess, helping a little girl tie her shoe, when she looked up and saw him standing by the fence. Her heart did something complicated. He didn't come closer, just stood there, hands in his pockets, waiting. Nia finished with the shoelace and walked over, aware of the other teachers watching from across the playground. Hi, Evan said. Hi. She crossed her arms, trying to look stern. You brought groceries. I did. I told you not to. I know, he met her eyes. But you also said you needed time to think. I figured you could think better if you weren't worried about how to feed your kid this week. Nia's resolve wavered. That's not fair. I'm not trying to be fair. I'm trying to help. Why? The word came out sharper than she intended. Why do you care so much? Evan looked at her for a long moment. Because when I'm with you, I feel like myself. Not the Whitmore heir, not someone's expectation, just me. That's not my job, Nia said quietly, to make you feel good about yourself. I know, and I'm not asking you to. I'm just asking for a chance, a real one. Behind them, one of the kids shrieked with laughter. A ball bounced past. The world kept moving. One more coffee, Nia said finally, and you meet me on my terms. No fancy places, no cameras, just us. Evan's face broke into a smile. Deal. And if this goes bad, if my son gets hurt or I lose my apartment or... It won't, Evan said. I promise. You can't promise that. Then I'll do everything in my power to make sure it doesn't. Nia studied his face, searching for cracks in his certainty. She found none. Okay, she said, but we go slow, really slow. As slow as you need. She nodded, not trusting herself to say more. Evan stepped back from the fence, his expression careful but warm. "Thank you," he said. Nia watched him walk away, her heart pounding. Around her, the playground continued its chaos of laughter and shouting. But all she could think about was the look in Evan's eyes, the steadiness there, the quiet promise. Maybe Mrs. Jenkins was right. Maybe this was worth the risk. That Sunday, Evan met Nia and Milo at the park near their apartment. It was a cool afternoon, the kind where the sun felt warm, but the shade was cold. Milo ran ahead to the swings, his jacket unzipped despite Nia's earlier warnings. "He's got energy," Evan said, falling into step beside her. "Always." Nia watched Milo climb onto a swing and start pumping his legs. "He doesn't sit still for more than 5 minutes." They walked to a bench near the playground and sat down. Evan stretched his legs out, looking relaxed in jeans and a plain jacket. No designer labels today, nothing flashy. "Thank you for this," he said. "For what?" "For letting me be here, with you, with him." Nia looked at Milo, who was now trying to swing high enough to touch the sky with his toes. "Don't thank me yet. He's going to ask you a million questions." "I can handle questions." "We'll see." As if on cue, Milo jumped off the swing mid-arc and ran over, breathing hard. "Mama, can we get a kite?" "A kite?" Nia frowned. "Baby, we don't have—" "I saw a kite shop on the way here," Evan said. "We could go check it out." Milo's eyes went wide. "Really?" Nia shot Evan a look. He raised his hands in mock surrender. "Only if your mom says yes," he added quickly. Milo turned to Nia with the biggest puppy dog eyes she'd ever seen. "Please, Mama, please," she sighed. "Fine, but just a small one." Milo whooped and took off running toward the park exit. Nia and Evan followed at a slower pace. "You're terrible," Nia said, but there was no heat in her voice. "I'm learning," Evan said with a grin. The kite shop was small and cluttered, filled with colorful kites of every shape and size. Milo darted from one to another, oohing and aahing over dragons and butterflies and superheroes. He finally settled on a simple blue kite with a long tail. Evan paid before Nia could protest. Back at the park, Evan helped Milo get the kite airborne. It took a few tries, the wind was uncooperative, but eventually the kite soared up, dancing against the pale blue sky. Milo laughed, holding tight to the string. Evan stood behind him, one hand steadying the boy's shoulder. Nia watched from the bench, her chest tight with an emotion she couldn't name. This was dangerous because it felt real. It felt like the life she'd always wanted but never thought she'd have. And the thought of losing it, of having it ripped away, was almost too much to bear. "Mama, look," Milo shouted. "Look how high it is." Nia smiled and waved. "I see it, baby." Evan glanced back at her, his expression soft. He didn't say anything. Didn't need to. And for the first time in a long time, Nia let herself believe. Just a little. The invitation arrived on a Tuesday. Nia pulled it from her mailbox along with 2 bills and a grocery store flyer. The envelope was cream-colored, heavy stock, with her name written in elegant script across the front. She knew what it was before she opened it. Inside, embossed letterhead announced the Whitmore family's monthly brunch. This Sunday, 11 o'clock. RSVP requested. At the bottom, someone had written in pen, "Please come." Evan Nia sat on the steps outside her apartment building, staring at the card. The paper felt expensive between her fingers. Everything about it screamed wealth and tradition in a world she didn't belong to. Her phone buzzed. Evan's name lit up the screen. "Did you get it?" She typed back slowly. "Yeah." 3 dots appeared, then, "You don't have to come, but I'd really like you to." Nia stared at the message. She thought about the past 2 weeks, the park visits, the dinners at cheap restaurants where Evan never once looked uncomfortable eating tacos from a food truck. The way he'd helped Milo with his homework, patient and encouraging, never talking down to him. The way he'd kissed her for the first time 3 nights ago, standing on her doorstep after Milo had gone to bed. Soft and careful, like she was something precious. She typed, "What should I wear?" His response came immediately. "Whatever makes you comfortable. You'll be beautiful either way." Nia's stomach flipped. She shoved her phone back in her pocket and went inside. Saturday night, she stood in front of her closet in her underwear, staring at 5 years' worth of second-hand clothes. Nothing looked right. Everything was too casual or too worn or too obviously cheap. She pulled out a dark blue dress she'd bought for a job interview 2 years ago. It was simple, modest, with long sleeves and a hem that hit just below her knees. It would have to do. Mrs. Jenkins knocked on the door while Nia was getting dressed. "Brought you something," the older woman said, holding up a small jewelry box. Inside was a delicate silver necklace with a small pearl pendant. "Mrs. Jenkins, I can't—" "Hush. It was my daughter's. She doesn't wear it anymore. You're just borrowing it." Mrs. Jenkins fastened the necklace around Naya's neck, her fingers gentle. "There. Now you look like the queen you are." Naya's eyes burned. "Thank you. You nervous?" "Terrified." Mrs. Jenkins patted her shoulder. "Good. Means you care. Now go show them what you're made of." Sunday morning arrived too quickly. Evan picked her up at 10:30. He was driving himself today, no driver, in a sleek black car that probably cost more than Nia made in 2 years. He got out when he saw her, his eyes widening slightly. "Wow." Nia smoothed down her dress self-consciously. "Is it okay?" "You're perfect." He opened the passenger door for her. "Ready?" "No, but let's go anyway." The drive took 20 minutes, winding through neighborhoods that got progressively wealthier. Larger houses, bigger yards, gates and circular driveways and cars that gleamed in the morning sun. The Whitmore estate sat at the end of a tree-lined drive. The house was massive, 3 stories of pale stone with black shutters and ivy climbing the walls. A fountain stood in the center of the circular driveway. Nia's mouth went dry. "It's just a house," Evan said quietly, like he could read her thoughts. "It's a mansion. It's where I grew up, but it's never felt like home." He put the car in park and turned to face her. "If at any point you want to leave, we leave. No questions asked, okay?" Nia nodded, not trusting her voice. They walked to the front door together. Evan's hand found hers, warm and steady. The door opened before they could knock. A woman stood in the doorway. 50s, perfectly coiffed blonde hair, wearing a cream-colored pantsuit that probably cost more than Naya's rent. Her smile was polite but didn't reach her eyes. "Evan," she said, "and you must be Nia." "Mom, this is Nia Carter." Evan's voice was calm but firm. "Nia, my mother, Mary Ann Whitmore." "It's nice to meet you, Mrs. Whitmore." Nia extended her hand. Mary Ann's handshake was brief, her fingers cool. "Please, come in." The entrance hall was enormous, marble floors, a chandelier that looked like it belonged in a museum, a sweeping staircase with a polished banister. Nia felt small. Voices drifted from somewhere deeper in the house, laughter, the clink of glasses. "Everyone's in the dining room," Mary Ann said. "Brunch is just about ready." She led them down a hallway lined with oil paintings, ancestors, Nia guessed, and into a bright dining room with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking a garden. 6 people sat around a long table. Conversations paused as Nia entered. "Everyone," Evan said, his hand still holding hers. "This is Nia." A man who looked like an older version of Evan, his father clearly, stood and extended his hand. "Robert Whitmore, pleasure to meet you." His handshake was warmer than his wife's, his smile more genuine. The others introduced themselves in a blur. Evan's sister Charlotte, home from graduate school, his cousin Cal and Cal's wife, an aunt and uncle whose names Nia immediately forgot. And then, at the far end of the table, a woman with perfect posture and carefully highlighted hair. She wore a pale pink dress that probably cost a month of Naya's salary. "Renee Dawson," the woman said, her smile sharp. "I'm an old friend of the family." Something in her tone made Naya's stomach tighten. "Nice to meet you," Naya said carefully. They took their seats. Evan sat beside Nia, positioning himself between her and his mother. Nia was grateful. Brunch was elaborate. Eggs Benedict, fresh fruit, pastries, smoked salmon, more food than Nia usually saw in a week. She ate carefully, hyper-aware of every movement, which fork to use, how much to take, whether she was chewing too loudly. The conversation flowed around her, discussions about the foundation, about Charlotte's thesis, about someone's upcoming vacation to Italy. Mary Ann turned to Nia with a smile that didn't touch her eyes. "Evan tells me you work at a preschool." "Yes, ma'am. Little Stars on Maple Street." "How lovely. And you have a son?" "Milo. He's 6. 6. Mary Ann's smile tightened fractionally. "That must keep you very busy." It does, Nia said evenly, but I wouldn't trade it for anything. Across the table, Renee dabbed her mouth with a napkin. It must be so hard doing it all on your own. The words were sympathetic, but the tone wasn't. I manage, Nia said. I'm sure you do. Renee's eyes flicked to Evan. It's wonderful that Evan's found someone so independent. Evan's jaw tightened. Nia's more than independent. She's incredible. Of course, Renee said smoothly. I didn't mean to suggest otherwise. But the damage was done. The implication hung in the air. Independent. Code for, she doesn't need his money. Which really meant, we all know that's exactly what she needs. Nia's face burned. She focused on her plate, cutting her food into smaller and smaller pieces. Under the table, Evan's hand found her knee, squeezing gently. Tell us about your son, Charlotte said suddenly. She was younger than Evan, maybe mid-20s, with kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. What's he like? Nia looked up, surprised. He's wonderful, smart and funny. Obsessed with dinosaurs right now. He wants to be a paleontologist when he grows up. That's adorable, Charlotte said, smiling. Has he been to the Natural History Museum downtown? Not yet. The admission's a little... Nia caught herself. We haven't had a chance. You should go, Robert said. It's excellent. They have a whole dinosaur exhibit, interactive displays. We'll take him, Evan said firmly. Next weekend. Marianne's smile was glacial. How thoughtful. The rest of brunch passed in a haze. Nia answered questions when asked, smiled when appropriate, and counted the minutes until she could leave. When it was finally over, Marianne walked them to the door. It was lovely to meet you, Nia, she said. I hope we'll see you again soon. The words were polite, but her eyes were calculating. Evan didn't speak until they were back in the car, the estate disappearing in the rearview mirror. I'm sorry, he said. For what? For them. For Renee. For my mother's. He exhaled sharply. That was worse than I thought it would be. It's fine. It's not fine. He pulled over to the side of the road and turned to face her. You were amazing in there. Gracious and composed and stronger than anyone else at that table. I felt like a fraud, Nia said quietly. Like I was playing dress-up in someone else's life. You're not a fraud. You belong anywhere you choose to be. Do I? She looked at him, her eyes stinging. Because your mother looked at me like I was a problem she needed to solve. And Renee's jealous. Of what? I have nothing. You have me. Evan's voice was fierce. And she can't stand it. Nia laughed, a broken sound. Evan, this is crazy. Your whole world is different from mine. The food you eat, the clothes you wear, the way you talk, everything. I don't fit there. Then I'll fit here. He took her hand. With you. With Milo. That's where I want to be. For how long? The question came out before she could stop it. How long before you wake up and realize this is too hard? That I'm too much work? Never. You can't know that. Yes, I can. He cupped her face in his hands. Because I've never felt this way about anyone. Because when I'm with you, everything makes sense. Because I'd rather have 1 hour with you than a lifetime with anyone else. Nia's breath caught. She wanted to believe him. God, she wanted to believe him. I'm scared, she whispered. I know. So am I. You are? Terrified. He smiled, his thumb brushing her cheek. Because I'm falling in love with you, Nia Carter. And I've never been more afraid of losing something in my entire life. Nia's heart stopped, started again. Evan, you don't have to say it back. I just needed you to know. She kissed him then, there in the car on the side of the road. Kissed him like he was air and she'd been drowning. Kissed him like maybe, just maybe, this could work. When they pulled apart, both breathing hard, Nia rested her forehead against his. Take me home, she said softly. Evan nodded and started the car. That evening, after Milo was asleep, Nia sat at her small kitchen table with a cup of tea she wasn't drinking. Her phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. We should talk. Nia stared at the message, her stomach sinking. Before she could respond, another text came through. I know you care about Evan. I do too. That's why I think you should know the truth about what you're getting into. Nia's hands shook. She set the phone down, face up on the table. Don't respond, she told herself. Don't engage. But curiosity, or maybe fear, got the better of her. What truth? She typed. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Meet me tomorrow. The coffee shop on 5th Street, 2 p.m. Come alone. Nia stared at the message for a long time. She should tell Evan. She should ignore Renee completely. She should... Okay, she typed. The response was immediate. Good. You're making the right choice. Nia locked her phone and pressed her palms against her eyes. She had no idea if she was making the right choice or the worst mistake of her life. The coffee shop on 5th Street was busy on Monday afternoon. Nia arrived at 2 o'clock sharp, her stomach churning. Renee sat at a corner table, 2 cups of coffee already waiting. Thank you for coming, Renee said as Nia sat down. Her voice was warm, friendly, nothing like the coldness from brunch. What do you want? Nia asked bluntly. Renee's smile faltered. I want to help you. I don't need your help. I think you do. Renee leaned forward. Look, I know what you must think of me. The bitter ex-girlfriend trying to stir up trouble. But that's not what this is. Then what is it? Renee sighed. I care about Evan. I always have. And I care about his family. They're good people, Nia, but they have expectations, standards. And I don't meet them. I didn't say that. You didn't have to. Nia started to stand. I don't have time for this. Wait. Renee's hand shot out, not touching Nia, but asking her to pause. Please, just listen. Against her better judgment, Nia sat back down. Evan's been through a lot, Renee said. His last serious relationship ended badly. The woman, she was with him for 2 years. Then the press found out some things about her past. Nothing terrible, just complicated. The scrutiny was too much. She left. Broke his heart. Why are you telling me this? Because the same thing is going to happen to you. Renee's voice was gentle, almost pitying. The press will dig into your life. They'll find out about Milo's father, about your financial struggles, about every mistake you've ever made, and they'll write about it, publicly, for everyone to see. Nia's chest tightened. Can you handle that? Renee asked. Can your son? I don't know, Nia said honestly. That's what I thought. Renee pushed a business card across the table. This is the number for a good therapist, someone who specializes in helping people navigate high-profile relationships. If you're serious about this, about Evan, you'll need support. Nia stared at the card. Part of her wanted to rip it up, but another part, the scared, practical part, pocketed it. I'm not trying to hurt you, Renee said. I'm trying to prepare you, because Evan won't. He'll tell you everything will be fine, that love conquers all. But it doesn't. Not in his world. And you think I should walk away? I think you should decide if this is really what you want. For yourself and for your son. Renee stood, leaving cash on the table for the coffee. Think about it. That's all I ask. She walked out, leaving Nia alone with 2 cups of coffee and a storm of doubts. Nia didn't tell Evan about the meeting. She told herself it was because there was nothing to tell, that Renee was just trying to manipulate her, that everything she'd said was lies or exaggerations, but doubt crept in anyway. That night, she lay awake, long after Milo's breathing had settled into the steady rhythm of sleep. She thought about the press, about strangers picking apart her life, her choices, her past. She thought about Milo's father, Anthony, who'd disappeared when she told him she was pregnant, who'd never sent $1 or a card or even a text message asking how his son was doing. What would the paper say about that? How would they twist it? And Milo, sweet, sensitive Milo. How would he handle seeing his mother's name dragged through gossip sites and comment sections? Nia rolled over and stared at the ceiling, her heart heavy. Maybe Renee was right. Maybe love wasn't enough. On Wednesday evening, Evan took her and Milo to the Natural History Museum. Milo was beside himself with excitement, running from exhibit to exhibit, his eyes huge with wonder. Mama, look! A T-Rex! I see it, baby. Evan walked beside Nia, their hands loosely linked. He pointed out details in the displays, reading the plaques out loud when Milo asked questions. They looked like a family. The thought terrified her. In the gift shop, Milo begged for a stuffed triceratops. Evan bought it without hesitation, along with a book about fossils. You're spoiling him, Nia said as they walked to the car. Is that so bad? It is if he gets used to it. Evan stopped walking. What do you mean? Nia glanced at Milo, who was skipping ahead, clutching his new dinosaur. I just mean, this isn't sustainable. You know that, right? Buying him a $20 toy? All of it. The museum, the groceries, she gestured helplessly. The way you show up and make everything better. Evan frowned. I don't understand. What happens when you realize, this is too much? Nia's voice dropped. When you get tired of playing house with me and my kid? That's not going to happen. You can't know that. Nia, I'm serious, Evan. She stopped walking, forcing him to face her. You're used to a life I can't give you. Eventually, you're going to wake up and realize you've given up too much. And when that happens, where does that leave us? Evan's jaw tightened. Is this about brunch? About my mother? It's about reality. About the fact that we live in different worlds. So we build a new one. His voice was firm. Together. It's not that simple. Why not? Because I'm scared. Because I've been left before. Because I can't survive losing you. But she didn't say any of that. I just need you to be realistic, she said instead. Evan looked at her for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Then he nodded slowly. Okay, he said. I'll try. But something in his eyes had dimmed, and Nia felt the distance between them widen, just a fraction, just enough to hurt. The envelope appeared on a Thursday night. Nia found it wedged between her apartment door and the frame when she came home from work. Plain white, unsealed, with nothing written on the outside. She carried it inside, set her purse down, and checked on Milo. He was at Mrs. Jenkins's place doing homework. Nia opened the envelope. Inside was $500 in cash, crisp bills neatly stacked, and a note written in elegant handwriting on expensive stationery. Nia, I hope this helps with your immediate needs. Please don't see this as charity. Consider it an investment in your future independence. You deserve stability, and I want to support that. Ania's hands went numb. She read the note 3 more times, her heart pounding harder with each pass. This wasn't Evan's handwriting. She'd seen his writing before, on the birthday card he'd given Milo last week, on the grocery list he'd scribbled when they'd cooked dinner together. His letters were loose, slightly messy, full of personality. This was different, formal, perfect, calculated. She looked at the money again. $500 would cover her electric bill, would buy Milo the winter coat he needed, would let her breathe for the first time in months. But it felt wrong, poisonous. Because if Evan had given her cash, he would have done it in person. He would have asked first. He would have made sure she was comfortable. This felt like a transaction, like someone paying her to go away. Nia's stomach turned. She grabbed her phone and called Evan. It went to voicemail. She tried again. Same result. Call me, she texted, now. 3 dots appeared, then disappeared. Finally, in a meeting. Everything okay? Nia stared at the message, her throat tight. She wanted to ask him directly, to give him a chance to explain. But doubt had already taken root. Fine, she typed. Never mind. She shoved the envelope into a drawer and went to get Milo. Evan showed up at her door 2 hours later. Nia let him in, her face carefully neutral. You said to call, Evan said, stepping inside. I came as soon as I could. What's wrong? Did you leave something for me today? His brow furrowed. What do you mean? An envelope, with money, and a note. No. His confusion looked genuine. Why would I do that? The note was signed with your initial. Evan's face darkened. Show me. Nia retrieved the envelope from the drawer and handed it to him. He read the note, his expression growing colder with each word. This isn't from me, he said flatly. Then who? My mother. He crumpled the note in his fist. Or Renee, maybe both. Nia's chest tightened. Why would they do that? To make you think I'm trying to buy you off, to make you doubt me. He looked at her, his eyes searching. Did it work? She wanted to say no, wanted to tell him she'd never doubted him for a second, but she couldn't lie. I don't know, she said quietly. I saw the money and the note, and for a minute I thought that I'd given up, that I was trying to pay you to leave. Yeah, Evan exhaled slowly. Nia, if I ever want to help you financially, I'll ask first, face to face, and I'll respect whatever answer you give. I would never do something like this. I know. Her voice cracked. I know that. But for a second I believed it, and that scares me. Why? Because if I can be that easily convinced you'd hurt me, what does that say about us? She wrapped her arms around herself. What does that say about me? Evan stepped closer, his hands gentle on her shoulders. It says you've been hurt before. It says you're protecting yourself and your son. It doesn't say anything bad about you. But I should trust you. Trust takes time, especially when people are actively trying to break it. His jaw tightened. I'm going to fix this. How? By dealing with Renee and my mother and anyone else who thinks they can manipulate us. Evan, I mean it. His voice was steel. I'm not letting them do this to you. To us. Nia searched his face. The anger there wasn't directed at her. It was protective, fierce. Okay, she said softly. He kissed her forehead and pulled her into his arms. Nia let herself lean into him, breathing in the familiar scent of his cologne. I'm going to make this right, he whispered. She wanted to believe him. She really did. Friday afternoon, Evan drove to Renee's office downtown. He didn't call ahead, didn't warn her. He just walked in and asked the receptionist to tell Renee he was there. 5 minutes later, Renee appeared, perfectly polished in a cream blazer and pencil skirt. Evan. Her smile was warm. What a surprise. Come on back. He followed her to a sleek corner office with a view of the city. She gestured to a chair, but he remained standing. Did you leave an envelope at Nia's apartment? He asked without preamble. Renee's smile didn't waver. I don't know what you're talking about. Don't lie to me. Evan, I genuinely have no idea. You met with her on Monday, at the coffee shop on 5th Street. That made her pause. She told you? No, but I'm not stupid. He crossed his arms. What did you say to her? Renee sighed and sat on the edge of her desk. I was trying to help. Help. She's in over her head, Evan. She doesn't understand what being with you means. The scrutiny, the pressure, the way every aspect of her life will be dissected. That's not your decision to make. Someone needs to look out for her, Renee said, because you're not. You're so caught up in this fantasy that you're not seeing reality. The reality is that I love her. Renee flinched. You barely know her. I know enough. Do you? Renee stood, stepping closer. Do you know what it's going to do to her son when the press finds out about his father, when they start asking questions at his school? When other parents pull their kids away because they don't want to be associated with the drama? Evan's hands clenched into fists. Is that a threat? It's a warning. From someone who cares about you. Her voice softened. I'm not trying to hurt you, Evan. I'm trying to save you from making a mistake. Loving Nia isn't a mistake. Maybe not, but it's going to cost you, your family, your reputation, your peace. Renee's eyes were sad. Is she worth all that? Yes, Evan said without hesitation. And if you ever contact her again, if you ever try to manipulate her or scare her or make her doubt me, we're done, completely. Do you understand? Renee's face went pale. Evan, I mean it, Renee. Stay away from her. He walked out without waiting for a response. That night, Evan went to his parents' house. Dinner was already in progress when he arrived. His father looked up in surprise. His mother's expression was carefully neutral. Evan, Robert said, we weren't expecting you. We need to talk. Evan remained standing at the head of the table. About Nia. Marianne set down her fork delicately. What about her? Did you leave money at her apartment? His mother's face didn't change. I don't know what you're referring to. An envelope, $500, with a note signed with my initial. That sounds like a generous gesture, Marianne said. Though I can't imagine why you'd object to helping the poor girl. It wasn't from me, and we both know it. Silence fell over the table. Charlotte, home for the weekend, stared at her plate. Robert cleared his throat. Marianne. I did what I thought was best, Marianne said coolly. That woman has a child to support. She's struggling financially. You thought you could pay her to leave. I thought I could help her gain some independence so she wouldn't feel obligated to stay in a relationship that's clearly causing her stress. Evan's jaw tightened. You had no right. I'm your mother. I have every right to protect you. From what? From being happy? From being taken advantage of? Marianne stood, her composure cracking. Evan, be reasonable. This woman, she's nice enough, I'm sure, but she's not right for you. She doesn't understand our world. She never will. Good. Because I don't want to live in a world where people are judged by their bank accounts and their last names. Don't be naive, Marianne snapped. The world doesn't work the way you want it to. People will always judge, and right now they're judging you for this relationship. Let them. It reflects on the entire family. Then maybe the family needs to change. Evan's voice rose. Maybe we need to stop pretending we're better than everyone else just because we have money. That's enough, Robert said quietly. Both Evan and Marianne turned to him. Robert set down his napkin and looked at his son. Do you love this woman? Yes. And does she make you happy? Yes. Then that's all that matters. Robert turned to his wife. Marianne, we raised our children to be kind and compassionate, to care about people, not just appearances. If Evan has found someone who brings him joy, we should support that, not sabotage it. Marianne's face flushed. Robert, I'm serious. This stops now. He looked at Evan. I apologize for what happened. It won't happen again. Marianne stood abruptly and left the room. Charlotte looked up at her brother, her eyes sympathetic. For what it's worth, I think Naya's great. Evan managed a small smile. Thanks, Charlie. He left soon after, exhausted but relieved. At least his father understood. It was a start. Saturday morning, Nia woke to a knock at her door. She opened it to find Marianne Whitmore standing in the hallway, looking deeply uncomfortable in a coat that probably cost more than Naya's monthly rent. Mrs. Whitmore. Nia's voice was carefully neutral. This is unexpected. May I come in? Nia hesitated, then stepped aside. Marianne entered the small apartment, her eyes taking in the worn furniture and peeling paint with barely concealed discomfort. She stood in the middle of the living room like she didn't know where to put herself. I owe you an apology, Marianne said finally. Nia crossed her arms. For which part? The envelope or the way you treated me at brunch? Marianne's mouth tightened. Both? All of it. She took a breath. I was wrong. I let my concerns about appearances and reputation override what actually matters. And what's that? My son's happiness. Marianne met her eyes. He loves you. I've never seen him like this with anyone. And I tried to undermine that because I was afraid. Afraid of what? Of losing him. Of watching him build a life that doesn't include me. Marianne's voice cracked slightly. Of being wrong about what's best for him. Naya studied the older woman. This wasn't the polished, controlled person from brunch. This was someone struggling with her own fears. I can't promise you this won't be hard, Nia said quietly. People are going to talk. They're going to judge, both of us. And honestly, I don't know if we're strong enough to survive that. But you're willing to try. I'm terrified. But yeah, I'm willing to try. Marianne nodded slowly. Then so am I. I'll try to support you, both of you. I can't promise I'll do it perfectly, but I'll try. It wasn't a warm reconciliation. There were no hugs, no tears. Just two women agreeing to a fragile truce for the sake of someone they both loved. After Marianne left, Nia sat on the couch and let out a long breath. Mrs. Jenkins knocked and poked her head in. Was that who I think it was? Evan's mother. And she apologized. Sort of. Mrs. Jenkins settled into the chair across from her. You believe her? I don't know, but I think she's trying. That's more than I expected. What about you? What are you going to do? Nia looked down at her hands. Keep trying, I guess. Take it one day at a time. Hope that it's enough. That boy loves you, Mrs. Jenkins said firmly. I've seen the way he looks at you, like you hung the moon. Love isn't always enough. No, but it's a good start. 3 weeks passed. Slowly, carefully, Nia and Evan found their rhythm. He stopped trying to fix everything with money, started asking what she needed instead of assuming. She stopped waiting for him to leave, started believing just a little that maybe he'd stay. They had dinner at her apartment twice a week, nothing fancy, spaghetti, tacos, food that Milo would eat without complaining. Evan helped with homework, read bedtime stories, taught Milo how to throw a football in the park. They didn't hide, but they didn't broadcast either. They just lived, quietly, carefully, building something real. The gossip blogs moved on to other stories. The stares in public became less frequent. Nia's landlord renewed her lease, though the rent went up $20 a month. She didn't complain. Marianne invited them to dinner twice more. It was still awkward, still stiff. but she tried. She asked Milo about school, complimented Nia's earrings, small gestures but genuine ones. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. 4 months after the gala, Evan took Nia and Milo to the beach. It was early spring, still too cold for swimming, but the sun was warm and the sand felt good under their feet. Milo ran ahead, chasing seagulls and collecting shells in a plastic bucket. Nia and Evan walked slowly, their hands linked. "I've been thinking," Evan said. "About?" "The future, what we're building." Nia's heart skipped. "Okay. I don't want to rush you. I know we're taking this slow, but I also don't want to pretend I'm not thinking about long-term things." "Like what?" "Like moving in together. Eventually. Maybe getting a place that's ours, not yours or mine. Ours." Nia stopped walking. "Evan, I'm not asking you to decide now," he said quickly. "I'm just telling you what I'm thinking, what I want, when you're ready." She looked at him, this man who'd walked into her life and refused to leave, who'd faced his family's disapproval and public scrutiny and kept choosing her anyway. "I'm scared," she admitted. "I know. What if I can't do this? What if I'm not strong enough? Then we'll figure it out together." He cupped her face in his hands. "You don't have to be strong all the time. That's what I'm here for. And when you get tired of it, I won't. You can't know that. I can." His voice was steady, certain. "Because I've had easy, Nia. I've had convenient and acceptable and expected, and none of it made me happy. Not like this, not like you." Nia's eyes burned. "I love you." The words came out before she could stop them, before she could second-guess or overthink. Evan's face broke into the biggest smile she'd ever seen. "Say it again." "I love you," she repeated, laughing through tears. "God help me. I love you." He kissed her then, right there on the beach with Milo running circles around them and the waves crashing against the shore. When they pulled apart, Milo was standing a few feet away, his bucket of shells forgotten. "Are you kissing?" he asked, his nose wrinkled. "Yeah," Evan said, grinning. "Is that okay?" Milo thought about it seriously. "I guess, but it's kind of gross." Nia laughed, pulling her son into a hug. "Come here, you." Milo squirmed but didn't pull away. Evan wrapped his arms around both of them, and for a moment they stood there like that. A family. Not perfect, not easy, but real. 6 months later, Nia stood in the doorway of a new apartment. It was bigger than her old place, 2 bedrooms instead of 1, a kitchen with actual counter space, windows that let in real sunlight. "What do you think?" Evan asked, standing beside her. "It's too much," Nia said automatically. "It's ours." He turned to face her. "I put both our names on the lease, equal tenants, equal responsibility." "Evan, I know you're scared of feeling dependent. I know you need to contribute, so we split the rent, we split the bills, we split everything. Deal?" Nia looked around the empty apartment, thought about what it would mean, what it would cost her, what she'd be risking. Then she looked at Evan, at the steadiness in his eyes, at the man who'd proven day after day that love wasn't about grand gestures. It was about showing up, staying present, choosing each other even when it was hard. "Deal," she said. Milo came running in from the hallway, his footsteps echoing in the empty space. "My room is huge," he shouted. "Can I get a bunk bed?" "We'll see," Nia said, laughing. Evan squeezed her hand. "We're going to be okay." And for the first time in longer than she could remember, Nia believed him. 1 year later. Milo's school was having a science fair. He'd built a model of a volcano that actually erupted, and he was convinced it was going to win first place. Nia stood in the gymnasium with Evan, watching Milo explain the chemical reaction to the judges. His face was serious, his little hands gesturing wildly. "He's got your confidence," Evan said quietly. "And your need to be right," Nia shot back, smiling. Around them, other families milled about, parents and kids and teachers. Some people still stared, some still whispered, but not as many as before. And the ones who did no longer made Nia's stomach churn with anxiety, because she'd learned something over the past year and a half. Love wasn't about being accepted by everyone. It was about accepting yourself, your choices, your life. And she'd chosen this, chosen Evan, chosen to believe that what they had was worth fighting for. Across the gym, Marianne waved. She'd come to watch Milo's presentation, bringing a card and a gift certificate to the bookstore. She still wasn't warm, probably never would be, but she was trying. That was enough. The judges moved on to the next project. Milo ran over, his face flushed with excitement. Did you see? They liked it. You were amazing, Naya said, pulling him into a hug. Think I'll win? I think you already have, Evan said. They left the school together as the sun was setting. Milo ran ahead to the car, already planning his next science project. Evan took Nia's hand. Happy? He asked. Naya looked at her son, at the man beside her, at the life they'd built from hope and stubbornness and daily courageous choice. Yeah, she said, I really am. And she meant it, because love hadn't been easy. It hadn't been perfect. It hadn't solved all their problems or erased all their differences. But it had been real, and real was enough.